like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I know it seems like it was like short notice. Blame that on Dorena. But it's amazing to see how one person is such a network of people that she has come into contact with. And it's also amazing that out of everybody, not one person has had one bad word to say about her or anything. So that speaks a lot to you. We don't count family. But just to see the influence and the impact that she has had on your lives. I know she had an impact on our life when we were over. So I just thank you for coming out, giving up your evening. It's not the greatest of weather conditions, that's for sure. So be very careful when you go to leave here. We don't want to be liable for anything. We're in a church. We should be okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Also, just as a reminder, because some are from out of the area, tomorrow the Slate Belt Heritage Center will be open tomorrow. For those of you who have never been down to see the Roseto room that they have down there, it is absolutely amazing. It's so professionally done that it's a good thing that if you can hang around in town to go see, or if you live here and have not gone there, it'll be like me. I didn't see it till a year ago. Shame on me for not going down and just seeing what they do have to offer. And just through going down there, they're now very active in the things that we do in our community here in Roseto, the activities that we have, and I do appreciate that. They put a lot of work into that. So we're going to take and turn it over to Dorena, because this is who you've all come to see tonight.
Wow. Well, thank you guys all for coming, because I do know a lot of you, so it warms my heart that you guys came to see me, and then I'm really happy to see faces I don't know, because I love getting to know new people. I'm going to start with a quick little story and tell you, this will maybe kind of tell you a little bit about how I got started on this road of doing what I do. So it's got to be 30 years ago or more that I was working on the Italian festival in the DC area. And there was this awesome priest, Father Carmen. He was from Rhode Island. He had this raspy voice. And we were talking about how important it was keeping this Italian festival going. He said, because first you have your heritage. And that's true, because we're all people from somewhere in this country. He said, people more in touch with their heritage tend to be more in touch with their religion. Because oftentimes your faith and your heritage are intertwined. If you're Italian, most likely you're Catholic or Presbyterian. He said people more in touch with their faith tend to be more in touch with their families, because you have the traditions and the rituals of your heritage and your faith that bond your families. We need those things, and people more in touch with their families tend to be better individuals. But it struck me that time, it's like, but we, at this time, even 30 years ago, I'm like, in this country, we have no heritage, we have no faith, we have no families. We have a lot of lonely individuals. Loneliness is kryptonite, but how do we get it back? So, over the years, since I was 19, I started teaching people how to cook. Because my friend, whose last name was Murphy, she called me up, she's like, Dorena, can you do a cooking class can you teach me and my friends in college how to cook, because we're all broke. And I was the neighborhood Italian kid who grew up in the restaurant, So I was like, sure, and I'm 19 years old, and I'm teaching all these girls how to cook, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm teaching people a life skill, and I'm 19. So I really think that it all starts by teaching people how to cook. Because if you teach people how to cook, if you cook a meal, there's a greater chance you're going to end up at the table. If you order a pizza or takeout, it's going to end up on the coffee table in front of the TV. And then we're all facing the same direction. We don't want to be facing the same direction. We want to be facing each other. So thanks to Father Carmen, he spurred that initial thought in me, and it was always in the back of my head, and I always loved teaching people how to cook. So anyway, speaking of cooking, the first 3 things my husband said to me when we first met: are you Italian? Can you cook? Will you marry me? About 6 months later, we were married. We got married, but we came from 2 divorced families, which unusual for the kind of Italian families we come from, but unfortunately that was the case. But we swore that wasn't going to happen to us. We were going to have the best family. We were going to have the best marriage. But, we did. We were the couple everybody wanted to be. But then, time goes on and things happen and life happens, and we had a family tragedy that tore us apart, okay? And I'm talking, boom, grief, depression, bad stuff that separated us. We were separated for 3 years. And, you know, it was the worst time of my life. Even my family tradition of cooking was a chore to me. But I got up in the morning. I had 6 kids. You know, one of them's right there. And I got up and I had to make breakfast, get them to school. I had to make lunches. I had to make dinner. And I did it. But it was hard. Spent a lot of time crying. But every Sunday, he came home for dinner. And, you know, of course, I pulled out all those, "Are you Italian? Can you cook? Will you marry me?" stops. And I made the best dinners I could, you know, reminding him, you know. But the thing is, you know, we did get back together. Obviously, he's here. But that Sunday dinner that we had was like a lifeline. It was a little piece of normal during those turbulent times that we were going through. And it was hard. But that little piece of normal felt normal. And it was comfortable because we had always lived that table culture, that Roseto Effect culture, okay? My 6 kids were always at the table. One time, you know, people have always asked me over the years, you know, "How'd you get 6 kids to the table? You know, I can't get my kids to the table, I only have 2. I'm like, "Yeah, well, you know, I got 6 and I got them to the table." But I asked one of my sons, I said, "You know, what did we do different? What did I do that got you to the table?" He goes, "You put the food on the table." I had 5 boys. That's where the food was. They came. You know, so you got to kind of just put the food on the table. They will come. But anyway, so, you know, why am I telling you this? You know, that really isn't the Roseto Effect, really. It's my personal story. But it is part of the Roseto Effect. It is that culture. You know, we all know, I think most of you here are of Rosetan heritage. Is anybody not? Okay. Okay, yes you are. You're married to me. Okay. So you know the story. You know, the 1880s, you know, the first Rosetans from Italy, where I now live, you know, came over here, worked in the slate mines, were discriminated against, so of course they moved over here and started the new town, the only 100% Italian town in the United States. Y'all know that? Just saying. Okay. Anyway, you probably do. No, more than me. I'm not a Roseto, Pennsylvania Rosetan. I'm a Washington, D.C. Rosetan. But anyway, you know, it was a beautiful thing. And in this little enclave, we lived in the way that they lived in Italy. So it's, you know, we're lucky that it was us that got to be seen, the Rosetans, you know. And this could have been a town that was settled by people from Alberona or Bicari, other towns near us. And I know there's some people from Bicari in this town too. But anyway. But we got the spotlight on us. I'm telling you all this because, you know, this is, you know, we know the story of here. And, you know, I grew up in D.C. We came up here for the big time when I was a kid. I came again when I was older. And I came again when I was a parent. And I saw the change, you know. And it's a shame because when I see the Roseto in Italy, where I live now, it's still the same. Yes, it's changed. It's changed there from when I was a kid, when I went to preschool there when I was 4. And, you know, people still had the chooch, the mules that they walked up and down the street with and I used to sit at the top of the hill and wait. I used to sit at the top of the hill and wait for the people coming in from the farms, right? And my aunt would put me up on top of the mule with the 2 big bales of hay on the side, and I would get a ride down the hill, down to the piazza, going, you know, up there on the cluck, right? And that smell of the fresh hay. I can still, from 4 years old and 5 years old, the couple times I was there when I was little, I remember that smell and that feeling. And then the guy would get me off the horse, I'd run up the hill and wait for somebody else to come down, you know. It was like, you know, amusement park. But, you know, and there was like one car. My uncle had a car because he had the bakery and he'd deliver bread around. But there was no cars on the streets. You know, it was many more people on the roads then, walking around, you know, talking and stopping and with the bread on their head, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And they would stand, they'd have a loaf of bread on their head. Okay, they just picked it up from the community bakery. And they would stand there like this with their hand on their hip, It was like, forget the book on your head and what was it, Glory Vanderbilt or whoever, the Miss Manners or whatever. No, it was a loaf of bread. And they're having a conversation with somebody, and you're like, but you have a loaf of bread on your head. Anyway, so some of those things are changed, now they put them in a bag. But let me tell you, I now live there. And that whole story of the original Roseto Effect, the phenomenon by which I've kind of tweaked it a little because I've read into the story more, and it's not just about the heart. We all know that Roseto was put on the map because of the heart health. But if you read deeper into the studies, it was about there was no heart issues, there was no ulcers, there was no depression, there was no anxiety, there was no suicide, there was nobody on welfare. I mean, this was Shangri-La. And when I'm over there, let me tell you, I spent 22 years living in Madison, New Jersey, okay? And it was like, over here, it's like, quick, don't put off till tomorrow. What you can do today, rush, rush, rush. And then like over there, it's like, you don't got to do it today, do it tomorrow. Maybe the day after tomorrow. But it's only if it's not that important. If it's important, it gets done. But if it's not urgent, we don't have to make it urgent, just because. And when I'm over there, let me tell you, I'm happy. First of all, if you're of heritage of there or of anywhere, there's something about standing on the ground where you're from. Whether you're from Italy or Ireland or Germany or wherever. There's something about knowing your heritage and knowing who you are. When I was 10 years old, there's a boy in my class. And I said to him, I go, what are you? And he goes, what do you mean, what am I? And I said, well, I'm Italian. What are you? I mean, I should have known. His name was Mackenzie. Okay. But still, I was 10, so I didn't really know. And he goes, I'm American. And I'm like, well, I'm American too. I said, but I'm Italian. And I said, so what are you? He goes, I don't know. And I was 10. And I thought, how do you not know who you are? Okay? So these are the things that I've been through in my life, and the moments that have stuck out to me that really had so much meaning. I always knew who I was. I knew I was Italian. I knew I was Roseto. Now, the difference between me and you guys is that you guys are maybe second or third generation, most of you? But I'm first generation. My dad went to Washington in 1957. And, we always went back. And there was a difference. When you left in the 1890s, you went on a month-long boat ride, maybe God knows where underneath what, huddled up, horrible conditions. I just watched a movie on the plane actually coming over here. It was called New York, Naples, or Naples, New York, and it was these two little kids that stowed away on a boat. I mean, I think it was just a story, but it talks about those conditions, and how they were, getting by to get here to this quote-unquote wonderful place. They used to be wonderful. And, I spent a lifetime, felt like a lifetime, wondering, what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be? Have you ever been driving in your car by yourself and you're kind of talking to God and you're like, God, tell me what I'm supposed to do, or it's where you question things when you're by yourself driving in the car, I don't know what it is. But I remember many times driving in my car, it's like, give me a sign, tell me what it is, because I know there's something else. And I said something to a friend one time. She goes, you've done big. Because I said, I'm supposed to be doing something. She goes, well, what? And I'm like, something bigger, something outside myself. She goes, you've done big. You've got 6 kids. But I knew there was something else. So at one point, when my youngest kid was almost finished high school, these things literally felt like things started to swirl. And this whole back to the table thing started, in all the cooking classes I was doing, like, we really need to all cook, not just the people, 6 people at a time come into my table. I was like, we need to get this back to the table thing. And I was like, we need a movement. We need a back to the table movement, because that's how we'll revive the Roseto Effect, And so I had come up with this idea, and I'd been at this networking thing, and I met this woman, and she worked for a newspaper or something, and she's like, oh my gosh, I love this idea. I want you to come to meet some other people I work with. I want you to come to this event. So I go to this event, and it was at this retirement community, really hoity-toity retirement community down in Maryland. I'm driving there, and of course, that thing in the car starts up again. I start crying in the car. I'm like, who the heck do you think you are? I said a different word, but I don't want to say it in church. Anyway, I was like, you know, who do you think you are? You're just a mom. You think you're going to change the world? And I'm like trash talking myself. And I'm bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, what the heck? So I get out of the car, of course. I get there. I'm of my word. I go inside. I wipe my face. And I meet with her. And as we're walking down the hall, she'd done other events there. So she knew some people. She's saying hello to people. And there's this older gentleman walking towards us. She stops to talk to him. And, you know, hi, Mr. Brown. Nice to meet you. Okay, goodbye. And we walk down the hall. She goes, you know, Mr. Brown has a cool story. I said, oh, what's that? And she goes, he was one of Martin Luther King's drivers. And I was like, Because right at that moment, I felt something. I literally got a feeling like, you know, hey, you know, one person can make a difference. And that stuck with me. And from that moment, I have not questioned what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So I know that what I'm doing, I'm supposed to be doing. You know, so I think I was born Roseton. I was born to do this. I learned how to cook. I met a guy who asked me if I could cook. All of these things swirl together to put me in this place at this time. So how do we do it? You know, so now we have this great idea. How do we get back to the table? How do we revive the Roseto Effect that we all have lived a piece of here, whether it was here or in Roseto, Italy, or anywhere else you might live? How do we get it back? Well, you know, I always tell people the simple things. Cook a meal at home. Start with the little things first, because you start here and it blossoms. You know, we all, with this crazy pace of life that we have today, every one of you, I bet, except maybe Joe here, has cooked a quickie meal or went out to some crappy restaurant that you didn't want to, but you know what, you didn't feel like cooking. Okay? Or, you know, you order takeout and put on the coffee table. And you know what? Since we've been home, and he's been home from, you know, working from home since COVID, since then, we changed our whole everything. Now, mind you, we always ate at the table, but 5 days a week, he's at work, the kids are at school, you know, so all those lunches are gone. But there are 21 meals a week. And if you take away those 5 workday school days, you still have 16 meals a week. People tell me all the time, oh, well, we do Sunday dinner. That's 1. Okay? So then people say, well, we can shoot for that. And then why don't you shoot for 16? Because if you fall short, you still might end up with 10. Okay? So ever since COVID, we actually eat our main meal now midday. Italians, and of course now even more so because we're in Italy and it just makes, everybody else is doing it, so I might as well, you know, follow the crowd. But especially if you're retired, have that main meal midday and have a lighter meal at night. You're going to actually feel how much better you feel. You'll see it. So there is, you know, something to be said for how you eat. But we eat every meal at the table. Every meal. Even during COVID, while we were binging NCIS 18 seasons, we still would stop, come sit at the table in the kitchen, eat, and go back. Once in a blue moon, like when I was a kid, I remember it was always the beginning of March that The Wizard of Oz was on. And The Wizard of Oz is on at 8 o'clock. Well, Mom would let us eat at the coffee table because that was special because we couldn't miss The Wizard of Oz. Now, of course, you can stream it and that's no fun anymore. But make a habit. So it's about little habits at a time. Okay, maybe you got to start with Sunday, and maybe you're going to then add Friday night. Make things special. Pizza Friday night. You know, new recipe Tuesday. You know, and of course, Italian Sunday dinner. But if you start making little changes in your own life, and then you invite somebody over for dinner on Sunday. Because you know what, if you're going to cook Sunday dinner, you know, what difference does it make if you make a pot this big or this big? Just make a little more sauce. Add a little more, as they said in the old days, add a little more water to the soup. Okay? It spreads. It goes further. And you know what? Okay, so I spent some extra money and got some good steaks, and I got 2 extra steaks because maybe somebody will come over because I'm going to invite them. But what you spend on good food and good company, you're buying good health for your future. Okay, so your your future, and then of course good wine, you know, from the winery nearby, you know, makes a difference. But you know, it's important what's on the table, but it's more important who's around the table.
Company.
Yep, absolutely. So, you know, these are the things that I spend time. I have courses. I privately coach people because you'd be surprised how many people can't boil water.
That's right.
You know, for me, I share it because, you know, I don't know, God gave me another, I don't know, ailment. He would say an ailment. I say it's a gift. But this mouth that I have, you know, it's a good, you know, I got a big mouth. So I figured I got to use it for something good because otherwise I'll get in trouble. So, you know, I started during COVID, I started my YouTube channel and my Facebook Live cooking show because he was working in his office. I had my two youngest kids were in college at home doing classes in their bedrooms. And I'm sitting in the middle like, okay, I can't teach a cooking class, can't have anybody over, can't go anywhere, can't go to Italy. So what did I do? I started cooking online. I gave it away I said, I'm going to give it away for free. All the stuff that I charge people for the rest of the time, I gave it away. You know, quarantine kitchen, whatever I was cooking for dinner is what I did a video for. You know, I was going to make this, but nope, the peppers are getting ready to go. We're making stuffed peppers, you know, whatever it was. But it was really, it got me through COVID, I'll tell you that, you know, sharing with other people. And it was really nice to get some messages from people now and then how, you know, I helped them get through it too, because I'm kind of a big goofball. And so when I'm on camera, I do have plenty of bloopers, you know. Like, you know that stuff I know she knows. There's a leavening agent that they use in Italy, like baking powder. Ammoniaca? Oh, it's an ammonium carbonate.
Yeah.
It's a leavening agent. It works just like baking powder, but it smells like ammonia. Well, I said, well, I got a recipe from a friend in Italy, and I thought, well, let me do this recipe exactly the way it's done over there. So I'm making this video. And I ordered this stuff on Amazon. I was like, oh, let me get this stuff that she gave me in the recipe, right?
Yeah.
So I had not opened it yet. And I'm on camera live. And I'm talking to the camera. I open it. And just out of Italian woman in the kitchen habit.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you. You know, like those things that they like wake you up from the dead, you know? Yeah, that's what it smelled like. And I wanted to just fall behind the counter because it was that strong, and I started laughing. And I just laughed my way through it. I'm like, yeah, don't do that. In the meantime, all I wanted to do was wipe my nose, but you can't because you're on camera, you know? And it's like, oh God. So one time I think I did this. I was about to rewatch it, but I was dying. It was horrible. So yeah, I've done stupid things too. You know, I'm supposedly a good cook. Over here, I'm a great cook. In Italy, I'm a good cook. Over there, I'm like everybody else. Everybody's a good cook. But it is about, and you don't have to be a good cook. You know, and honestly, it's really not hard. And people are like, I can't cook. I don't know how. I don't have any desire. I don't like this food. I don't like that. I mean, there's more excuses than there are stoplights in New Jersey. But you know what? It's really not hard. I taught a class, I did this class with the local adult school. And there was like these 8 people coming to my house every Tuesday for, I think it was 5 weeks. And one of them was this 82-year-old Jewish lady. She was a character. She's like 96 now. Anyway, she said to me, because she came and she's like, I don't know how I spent all these years raising my boys not knowing how to cook. She goes, you just taught an 82-year-old Jewish lady how to cook. You can teach anybody how to cook. It's not hard. And so that's, like I said, that's where it starts. But it's also important that you share this story, okay? Share the story with the people you know. Who better to share this than us? This is our legacy. We are lucky. We are blessed that we have this heritage that we have. And if we don't share it, we're doing the rest of the world a disservice. Because we are the example that they all should be following. You know, we don't have to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. Okay, just do it. And then, you know, maybe we can help save this world. Because it's, you know, it needs some help right now. So, if you want to ever come with me over there and see the real Roseto, not the real, the other Roseto, the original Roseto, the one that this one came from, so the motherland, you know how to find me. I'm all over everything. But, it is an experience. I know there's a bunch of people here who've been with me. Well, you guys have been there because you have houses there. But I mean, you guys have been there, and you're coming, and you've been there, and you've been there. So anyway, 17 DePaulos came last year. Biggest group I ever had. I was never so scared in my life. I was like, my biggest groups I say are maximum 14, right? And I feel like this thing that I do is really a privilege for me. I get to show you guys. I get to be the bridge, so it's really kind of cool. But this kid calls me up, Elle, and she's like, my family wants to come. We want to come in November. I'm like, November? And then she's like, yeah, there's 17 of us, 17 of you. And I'm like, okay, because my groups are usually max 14, and I never hit 14. We usually max at 12. So I'm like, all right, 17. And I was ask him later when he's not videoing, but I was completely, I'm like, well, how am I going to do this? 17 people, I'm nervous. Man, the best group ever, besides Nick's group and Mary Jo's group. But it was a unique, special, cool thing to have. It is really nice when a family comes. Now Mary Jo's coming with her whole family, and this year we had a couple groups that came that were just specific families came. One couple came last year, and then they came back with all their siblings and spouses this year. It is a real special thing when you come with family, but it's also a special thing when you come with a group of people and you just meet other Rosetons from other places. I mean, I had one gal from New Mexico and other ones from Arizona and California and Nevada and Las Vegas and Canada and Florida. I mean, all over the country, all over. We have Rosetons everywhere. We've really, we've made a dent in this world. So I really hope that you guys will take this seriously, not just like an evening out, we're going to have cookies afterwards, but take this seriously. Take it to heart. Share this Roseto story. Refresh yourself on it. There is the book that Ilene Ilene and Ken are waiting on more copies of it. They did the history of Roseto that was written in Italian in the early 1970s, and now they've done a copy where they've had it interpreted. So the front half is in Italian, the second half's in English. So it's the whole book in both. I urge you to read it. Read about the old Roseto. Read the studies about here. Because you know what? Sometimes when you live something, you don't research it. So when we're living it, we don't necessarily think about it. So think about it. Put it in the forefront of your thoughts. Really take it, a step further and share it and look into it a little more. Because I do these tours over there, I learned the history of the town even more. The first group I ever took was just some people from my cooking class. They were like, take us to Italy. You're always talking about Italy. So I did, and we did a cooking group. Then I realized, I got so much more to show people than just cooking. But the cooking is a big part of it because that's the base of our culture, That, the Italian food was just listed as a UNESCO. Did you hear about that? It is a UNESCO, I don't even know what they're calling it. It's not a UNESCO, it's a UNESCO heritage thing. It's not a site, but that's what they're treating it as. So it's listed as a UNESCO site, so to speak, the Italian cuisine. So that's really special. So take it, share it, do it, make it forefront of your thoughts, and share it with everybody. All right. Thank you, everybody.